good morning and welcome. I would like to welcome you on behalf of the Director Resources, Sabrina De Picker. I am Jean-Marc, a civil military aviation expert. And my job this morning today with you is to develop your interest in what EuroCONTROL is, what we do, and more importantly, who we are. Who are your future colleagues? That's important. Knowing the people, knowing their background, knowing what they want to achieve is important for you because it will provide you with the rationale of your participation in EuroCONTROL's activity, whatever your status is. Trainee, permanent staff, contract staff, whatever, you have to feel really welcome. You have been selected to contribute to the achievements of EuroCONTROL. The objective is to give you the big picture, to depict this big picture so that you feel comfortable in this panorama. I have devised a couple of objectives, very simple objectives for this 1 hour session. First objective, why do we exist? The question is simple, but it's a very important question. Why there is a EuroCONTROL in Europe or in the world? Why? What do we do? That's the minimum that we need to know so that we are able to contribute to the achievement of the first objective. And then, with whom do we have to work? We do not work, we do not provide added value in splendid isolation from the rest of the world. We have to work with a number of other organizations. Which ones? We will spend some time on this. Who are our partners or stakeholders? And you must have heard about the single European sky. What could that mean? What is our position? What is the articulation between EuroCONTROL and the so-called single sky? There must be a good reason for having links in between. So let's try to understand these links together. So this is what we would like you to understand more in a couple of minutes, so that you feel, you realize, you understand what your contribution will be. This is really the big picture, and this big picture is split into two parts. The visible part, which you know well, you have your own experience at airports, you have your experience in air travel, you know what a timetable is, you have seen that flights sometimes are delayed or even cancelled, or of course, most of the time, on time. And this is something which is visible not only to you involved in aviation, well aware of aviation matters, but it is visible for the general public. EuroCONTROL, well, you have seen the entrance and the flags. This is something which is highly visible to you. But what do we have behind all of this? We have this hidden part, well, which is represented here by an en route air traffic control center. This picture shows an en route air traffic control center, an ops room, with air traffic controllers doing their job. So visible part and hidden part. This morning with me, we will try to understand more about the hidden part of the iceberg. My job is to share what I know from this part through my 37 years of experience at EuroCONTROL in air transport, civil and military side. What you will see now is an accelerated picture of air traffic over the Atlantic and over the European continent. This is based on flight plans. This is not based on radar data or satellite data. It's based on flight planning. We realized how busy the traffic could be at certain periods of time in the day. In fact, round the clock. Round the clock, we are exposed to a busy traffic, busier every new year. What is the first message that could be conveyed by this short animation? The answer is there. Nothing can be left to improvisation. Otherwise, things, air traffic, passengers would be exposed to risk. Things have to be thought before, have to be designed, have to be validated, checked, double-checked, triple-checked. Nothing in aviation can be left to improvisation. Nothing, absolutely nothing. By only saying this, we realize what is the role of a body, an organization somewhere in Europe. Nothing left to improvisation. We are there predominantly to avoid improvisation, to organize, to foresee the future, to prepare for a safe future. That's the idea. The rationale. Why nothing is left to improvisation? Guess how many flights we are faced with on a day-to-day basis? At a guess.
35,000.
A bit even more, 36,000 every day. And this works well. It's highly safe because absolutely nothing in aviation is left to improvisation. And that's very important to reduce risks on safety and to meet increasing safety requirements. 2 reasons. Traffic growth. We are exposed. We have to manage a substantial traffic growth year on year. And we have also to face the reality. The reality is the following. Citizens are less and less prepared to accept safety risks in their life. And that's very important. As citizens, we have legitimate expectations. We accept to pay the price of our ticket, but we demand a high level of safety. So increasing safety requirements. So this puts in front of us a paramount requirement, working hard to further increase the safety level in Europe. Irrespective of the traffic growth, politicians have really given us the objective to increase safety levels in absolute terms, not only in relative to traffic, but in absolute terms. So this is a challenge, and we have to meet this challenge. There are safety aspects everywhere, and therefore it is important to realize that we need to provide expertise in all sorts of different areas. The EuroCONTROL expertise covers very many aspects of aviation. Not all of them, not the commercial aspects, but very many aspects. Historically, expertise was spent at the national level, producing, therefore, what we call a fragmented situation. Local solutions, national solutions to problems, creating together, generating a fragmented solution. Therefore, an inefficient European air traffic management system. Local solutions, national solutions found that is not efficient, fragmented. So the whole purpose of EuroCONTROL is to defragment the air traffic management system, to defragment it, to make it more efficient. The defragmentation becoming necessary through the fragmented situation created at the national level by the decision on local solutions, local improvements. Is that clear in your mind? It sounds logic, but it's interesting to get together to the same understanding. So nothing left to improvisation, and let's do every effort possible to defragment the current air traffic management system. This is not something which has started this morning, 8 o'clock. It started already a long time ago in the early 90s. So the ancestor to the single European sky was a program which was aimed at harmonizing and integrating the various air traffic management systems. That is a good summary. We defragment, and we defragment through harmonization of solutions and integration of these solutions. But now, thanks to the European Union impetus, we do it in a more global way at the pan-European level. The areas to be defragmented. The conceptual area, we need to agree and implement common concepts. The concept of flexible use of airspace, for instance. That is a very good concept. There is only one airspace, which needs to be used efficiently between only two types of users, the civil and the military. So the concept of flexible use of airspace. Another example of concept, and there are many, another example, collaborative decision-making, by which all decisions taken at airport level before departure are coordinated, analyzed in common, collaborative decision-making. This is a concept. The concept also of gate-to-gate. Every improvement that we bring to the European air traffic management system needs to be seen in the perspective of the gate-to-gate. Departure gate to destination gate. Every single flight being handled, processed from the departure gate to the destination gate. That is another concept. So harmonization, adoption of common concepts. Then another area to be defragmented. The technical solutions which are agreed need really to be common technical solutions. It would be totally inefficient, stupid, and it would be rejected by airspace users, airlines, if we would impose the mandatory carriage of airborne equipment only usable in Europe. So we have really to adopt, to defragment the technical element of the systems. Operational, the same operational concept, no local or national operational concepts. Organizational as well. We need to better organize ourselves. When I say we, it's a collective we. All stakeholders involved in air traffic management in Europe, and even with the passage of time, I should say, involved in aviation in Europe, need to better organize themselves to ensure the fluidity of information between every element of the network. All organizations need to exchange information to be transparent. This is what we call an organizational defragmentation. Organization, bodies, associations need to work together in a transparent manner and accept to exchange information for the benefit of the airspace user, for the benefit of aviation at large, and even above the benefit of the European citizen. With an aviation system that works efficiently, we provide added value to the European citizen. So organizational defragmentation and institutional defragmentation, or I should say rather institutional clarification. Who does what? Which institution? What is the scope of activity, the mission of this particular organization? What is the scope and the mission of that particular organization? And ensure mutual cooperation. Let's make the overlaps disappear. Be very clear on the respective roles. Defragmentation at the institutional level. Nothing left to improvisation. Defragmentation. These are really concepts which inspire our day-to-day work. At the end of the day, we build together, the so-called single sky. In two words only, it's a defragmented sky. In very simple terms, the single sky is a machinery, a framework by which any passenger is guaranteed with the same level of safety, the same level of performance, whatever the country overflown is. Irrespective of the country you are overflying, when you are on your seat in the airplane, you are sure that you are guaranteed with the same level of safety. Easy to understand. Although we are experts in aviation, these are simple words that we can understand. And if you have to explain to your friends, to your family, to your former mates at university what the single sky is, this is something that I recommend to use. When you are sat down in the airplane, you are traveling, whatever is the country overflown, you are guaranteed with the same level of safety. Through defragmentation, through convergence of concepts, adoption of same procedures, same processes, etc. This single European sky is an initiative of the European Union. We provide the expertise to achieve implementation of this single European sky. So depending on your place of assignment in the agency, you will be able to contribute to the construction of the single European sky. It's really a rewarding role. And I hope that you enjoy the pleasure of contributing to this single European sky implementation, each at your level in your own area of responsibility. As I said, we have the pleasure to welcome you in this organization, the so-called European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation. It's a long name. In short, EuroCONTROL. Let's analyze the meaning of each word, because every single word counts. Every word has a meaning. I will not follow the logical or the reading sequence. No, I will focus on one word after the other, but in a special order. Who are we? Are we European? Let's have a quick look. Are we European under the European Union idea? Yes and no. Yes, because we provide expertise to the European Union. All the European Union member states are also member states of EuroCONTROL, but we have more states. The single sky extends far beyond the borders of the EU. You will contribute to the implementation of the single sky far beyond the 28 states of EU, far beyond. So we are not exclusively working for EU, European in that sense. Are we European under the ECAC general framework? ECAC standing for European Civil Aviation Conference. It is a conference involving 44 states, the so-called ECAC states. Are we European in the ECAC sense? Yes, in the sense that ECAC, represented by the Director General Civil Aviation, has inspired our activities over the last couple of decades. In particular, when I mentioned to you the previous program aimed at harmonizing and integrating air traffic services, air traffic control, the ancestor of the single sky, that was inspired by ECAC. And we achieved quite a lot of success, harmonizing, first of all, the operations in the upper airspace, then in the lower airspace, then at airports. It provided increased performance, increased system capacity to be able to accommodate more traffic. And it was successful. However, ECAC is a civil body, and we are also a military body. And ECAC covers areas which are outside our own remits. For instance, ECAC covers customs regulations at airports. We are not involved in customs regulations at airports. ECAC, the Director General Civil Aviation, representing the various member states of ECAC, are involved in the security at airports. We are not involved in security measures at airports. So yes, we are European under the ECAC, but not exactly. Are we European under the ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization, general meaning and framework? Yes and no. ICAO is a branch of the United Nations. It exists since 1944. ICAO, a global organization, is divided into large regions, including one, the European region, whose headquarters are based in Paris. ICAO, the European region, involves 56 states. 56? That's more than the 41 EuroCONTROL states. So are we European under the ICAO European region? Yes and no, although we contribute, we cooperate in a very substantial manner with ICAO Europe and even ICAO Montreal, their headquarters. At every large meeting, in particular the Air Navigation Conference, every fourth year, EuroCONTROL prepares highly technical papers, a number of key working papers. So you say European, yes and no. Well, in fact, EuroCONTROL works at the pan-European level. And this is the purpose of this nice picture, satellite picture, overviewing the continent at large. we contribute to the implementation of the single European sky at the pan-European level in our 41 member states, plus some other states that we will see in a minute within the general EU neighborhood policy. EU is not working with closed eyes. They open their eyes. They work in close coordination with other third states within the framework of their neighborhood policy. And we support this neighborhood policy by working on a bilateral basis with other states which are outside our EuroCONTROL membership. We are pan-European, nothing left to improvisation, defragmentation, and pan-European. These are three very important words that form a sort of a framework to our activities. You are involved now. This is a colorful picture that will give you the opportunity to see where your country is. So we have represented on this picture the various organizations which I've mentioned, starting on the top left corner by ICAO, ICAO Europe, then ICAC, then EuroCONTROL, then EU. You can take your country and see to which organization it belongs. You will certainly tell me, Jean-Marc, I'm surprised to see the EuroCONTROL logo next to Israel and Morocco. That is fairly easy to understand. In 2017, we have signed what we call comprehensive agreements with these two countries. Israel, Morocco do not belong to EuroCONTROL. However, Europe exchanges a lot of traffic with these two countries. These two countries have expressed their clear intention to adopt as well the single European sky framework. Already some time ago, in October 2007, we have signed with them a comprehensive agreement. What does it entail? What does it mean? It means that these countries, first of all, participate in our high-level decision-making meetings. They are represented. Second, they contribute to the EuroCONTROL budget, just like the other member states, with a small discount. Third, they do not vote. Although they participate in high-level decision meetings, they are not full members. Yes?
Is there any plan to extend these agreements with the...
There is no firm plan, no calendar, but the strategy, the institutional strategy, remember, institutional defragmentation, the strategy is really to welcome the wishes expressed by new states to adopt the single European sky and to work with us in a more consistent and substantial manner. Yes, no firm plan, but for instance, Tunisia is certainly interested. EuroCONTROL will see its membership increase. Slowly, for sure, but further increase. Why? Why new comprehensive agreements? Why new extension of the EuroCONTROL membership? Simply because the larger the implementation area of solutions, technical solutions, operational solutions, organizational solutions, institutional solutions, the larger the area of implementation, the larger the benefit for the airspace user. It's as simple as that. There are states there which are underlined. Iceland is a good example. What could that mean? And Iceland is not the only one. We have Norway, for instance, Switzerland, Serbia. There is an explanation there. The single European sky applies within the EU. There are a number of single European sky regulations. These regulations are binding. If states do not implement, do not respect the European single sky regulations, they are exposed to sanctions which are instrumented by the European Commission and decided by the European Court of Justice. That's the machinery put in place within the single European sky legal framework. These states, all members of the EU, are exposed to sanctions if they do not implement the measures decided in common through decision makings taking place here, downtown, at the Commission, then in Strasbourg, Parliament. Single European sky regulations. These states, such as Iceland, Montenegro, Norway, etc., Switzerland, Serbia, have signed bilateral agreements with the EU. Bilateral agreements by which, although they are not member states of the EU, they commit themselves to implement the Single European Sky regulations. That means that they accept to play the game of the single sky. They are exposed to sanctions as well. Let's consider the European Union states. European Union has launched a strategic, a political initiative building the so-called EU single sky, which is regulated through mandatory regulations, meaning that those states which may not implement the regulations could be exposed to sanctions taken by the European Court of Justice. Those states which are not EU states are not exposed to sanctions unless they have signed bilateral agreements with the EU. That is the idea.
I see the question mark by the UK. I know that.
Question mark, simply because UK could possibly be outside EU. That is the reason of the question mark.
It doesn't mean outside EuroCONTROL.
No. UK will stay within EuroCONTROL. We are an intergovernmental organization. We exist through the ratification of a convention. And the convention is the EuroCONTROL Convention. Even though UK leaves EU, UK will stay within EuroCONTROL because UK has signed the EuroCONTROL Convention a long time ago. However, in our aviation world, aviation environment, leaving the EU, UK will have to find a bilateral agreement with the European Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, in Cologne, which is an agency of the EU. Just an assumption. If UK leaves the EU, then UK will have to find solutions for the European certification of their equipment, etc. So they will have to find an agreement with EASA, the European Aviation Safety Agency, which is the certification body at the European level. That is very important for UK, simply because they produce piece parts for Airbus, etc. The European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation. Organization. The word organization is important. The organization is the constellation, the articulation at the political level between member states. Who represents the member states of EuroCONTROL? The transport ministers and the defense ministers. We are a civil-military organization. Why? For a very simple reason. There is only one airspace which needs to be used equitably and efficiently between the two users, the civil and military. And therefore, the member states of EuroCONTROL, when it comes to participate in a plenary meeting at high level, they send two types of representatives, civil and military. And that is almost unique to have an international intergovernmental organization, civil and military, with civil and military representatives. And when it comes to make a decision, the civil representative and the military representative of each country, they have, first of all, to agree together because each country can only speak one voice. So this is typically a very good example of institutional defragmentation. We have managed to adopt a mechanism by which each state speaks one voice, the common voice of both civil and military. And this is an achievement. This is really an institutional achievement. We exist since 1960. It is not shown on the slide, but I like to share it with you. We are also a democratic organization. And we are a democratic organization because we exist through a convention, I said it already, but a convention that has been ratified, that needs to be ratified for the future applicants, that needs to be ratified at parliamentary level. So that denotes clearly the fact that we are a democratic organization. Through the members at the parliament, the citizens approve the membership of their country to EuroCONTROL. The European organization, etc. Are we only an organization? Not only, we are also an agency. And perhaps there has been a confusion in your mind. We are an organization at the political level, at the institutional level, but to do the work, we need people. People like you, people like me, people like my 1,800 colleagues working in different places in Europe, here in Brussels, in France, Research and Development Center, Netherlands, en route Air Traffic Control Center, Luxembourg Conference Center. So all these people work together. They contribute to the implementation of the single European sky in their own way. Engineers, technicians, controllers, etc. We'll see that in a minute. Altogether, these people need a framework. And this framework has a name, it is the agency. So we are both an organization at ministerial level, transport ministers, defense ministers, and the executive arm is the agency. You are part of the executive arm. And our boss is a director general. For the time being, it is Eamon Brennan, an Irish citizen coming from the Irish Civil Aviation Authority. And he has a 5-year contract. We have organized ourselves, just like all human societies, in large departments, large groups of colleagues. We call these departments directorates. First of all, first group, the network manager. Strange name for the department of an organization. In fact, everything that contributes to the well-being of air traffic management is seen as a complex network. The network of ground resources, radio nav heads, ground communications infrastructure, or air-ground communication infrastructure. Another resource, the human resources, the 18,600 air traffic controllers in Europe. They are the human resource of the air traffic management system. The radio spectrum is a resource as well. The airports is a ground resource, etc. All of this is seen as a network of resources, which needs to be used optimally. Therefore, it needs to be managed. Hence the name of this particular department, the network manager. They optimize the use of these various resources. Optimizing the use of these resources, why? Simply to provide the capacity to the airspace user, providing the capacity, the system capacity, using optimally, runways, taxiways, using optimally the airspace structure, the various sectors to control air traffic, using optimally the various human resources elements, air traffic controllers. Optimal use through a network management. And the role of NM, network manager, is to protect air traffic control from overload. An air traffic control system that is overloaded is an air traffic control system that has an impact, a negative impact on safety. In fact, this network, highly complex, covering the pan-European area, pan-European, that means the 41 EuroCONTROL states within which we have to implement the single sky, and those states with whom we have signed bilateral agreements. So this network, which is quite large and complex, is in fact a network of networks. The European Civil Military Aviation. European, no surprise to you. Civil military, no surprise either. Aviation. This is the new framework for us. We are not only an agency working hard in air traffic management. Our scope, our target is to improve aviation at large, to address environmental aspects, for instance, to address the drone aspect, which is becoming part of aviation at large. Aviation. It is challenging. It's also rewarding to see that the added value that we have exhibited, delivered over the last couple of decades, is considered as good to be adopted for the development of aviation at large. Our experience can serve aviation. That is a quite important department. A department which works On a more conceptual level, research and development, in particular our research and development center in France. This is where we propose strategies for future. This is where we have colleagues who prepare papers for ICAO to be adopted at the international, at the global level. This is something that is possibly new to you. The Central Route Charges Office. All human activities have a cost. Nothing is free. Everything has a cost. Safety of air navigation has a cost. It is the cost of providing air traffic services, of providing aeronautical information services, of providing air traffic control. This has a cost. Who pays for the cost of safety in aviation? It is not the taxpayer, just like in the US. It is the passenger, because there is no alternative in air transport in the US, no really railway system. People travel exclusively by plane, which is not the case in Europe. We have alternative modes of transport in Europe. Therefore, it's not a public service. It's not financed by the taxpayer. It is financed by the passenger or the cargo. When we buy our flight ticket, there is a part of the price which is used to subsidize, to pay for the ground infrastructure, for the service, the salaries of air traffic controllers, the cost of air traffic management, the cost of safety. So this is recovered through billing the airspace users. EuroCONTROL has been entrusted with the responsibility to ensure the cost recovery of this. We have been entrusted by whom? By ICAO. Years ago, in the early 70s, with the responsibility for establishing the bills, sending the bills to the airspace users, civil and military, getting the money back, checking, and disbursing it to states, so that states can really finance their own infrastructure, pay their own air traffic controllers, etc. And it works beautifully well. The performance of the Central Route Charge Office is quite high, more than 99% of recovery rate, something like 99.5. The cost of safety is quite high, something like 8.6 billions a year, billions euros, 8.6 billion euros. And it is entirely recovered from the airspace user. The so-called Maastricht Upper Area Control Center. It's another department. It's located in the Netherlands. It is an operational activity. It is where EuroCONTROL has been entrusted by 4 of its member states to control their airspace on their behalf. We have in Europe an en route air traffic control center located in the Netherlands, in one of our member states, which control the traffic over 4 states: the northern part of Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, and the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. So this is done on behalf of these 4 states. And the management of this en route air traffic control center has been entrusted to EuroCONTROL in the early 70s. The main characteristics of this en route air traffic control center is that it is an international air traffic control center. That is exceptional. It's a unique case in the world. This center is a very good example of international cooperation and integration. 4 states have decided to pool their expertise together and to entrust an international organization with responsibility for providing the service. That is really a unique case in the world. It is a sort of showcase for the single European sky, performing well, managing quite a heavy demand of traffic. To assist all the people working in these 4 large departments, a human resources and services department, just like in any company or organization. The European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation. You could deduce from the name, this long name, that EuroCONTROL works exclusively on the safety aspects. You could tell me, Jean-Marc, it is quite surprising because I have no experience in safety. However, I've been recruited. I will spend a couple of months with you at the agency working on other things. And you would be right. We are involved in very many activities which directly or indirectly contribute to safety. Punctuality, we work hard to ensure that airplanes take off on time and land on time. We do not, with the exception of our air traffic control center at Maastricht, we do not actually control traffic. However, we put in place the procedures, so that at the end of the day, there is really punctuality in traffic. And in particular, we manage a crisis cell. That is another example of activity. We have been entrusted with the role of managing a crisis cell in case of a major disrupting event occurs, just like the volcano eruption in Iceland years ago in 2010, I think. Affordability. You would tell me, but Jean-Marc, I thought that the agency was not involved in commercial aspects. And you would be right. We are not involved at all in the commercial aspect of air transport, ticketing or whatsoever. However, everything that we do needs to be cost efficient. And that means that, for instance, when we propose a new technical solution, a new procedure, etc., we validate it against a cost-benefit analysis. We have experts in economy who are involved in this. So everything that we do is validated through cost-benefit analysis. Just like everything that we do in safety is validated through safety cases. We analyze the impact of every single change, even minor changes, their impact on safety. And the go is only given, the go for implementation, the go for development, the go for production is only given if the safety case is positive. Shows that there is added value to safety. So, safety cases, cost-benefit analysis, and minimal impact on the environment. We are not involved in jet engine manufacturing. However, within our activities linked to network management, we are responsible for optimizing the route network, the network of airways, the route network. And we do it to shorten the distance to run, to reduce the mileage, the distances to fly. Why? To save time, but also to save fuel consumption and therefore gaseous emissions. That is one example, improvement of the route network to reduce the distance to fly, the mileage, to reduce the fuel consumption bit by bit. So everything that we do needs to ensure environmental sustainability. Having these expectations in mind, safety, punctuality, affordability, and minimal impact on the environment, which are expectations from both the passenger, but at large from the citizens, we have managed to develop performance indicators. Performance indicators that we have proposed to our various stakeholders, and we work on the basis of a set of meaningful performance indicators covering the 4 areas there. And every year, we assess these performance indicators to see whether we progress in the right direction at the expected pace. So, nothing left to improvisation, defragmentation, safety first, capacity, cost efficiency, and environmental sustainability. I can bet that each of you has already found the area where he or she will provide expertise, experience, added value. Because the organization, this agency, is involved there in these 4 aspects. Have you been able to identify where you will contribute? 4 high-level areas of activities. We are a performance driver for our stakeholders, for all the institutions, organizations involved like us in air navigation. You will have a big picture, after all, at the end of this presentation on who are the various stakeholders working with us. We make sure that all the bodies, organizations, stakeholders involved in the pan-European dimension of the single sky work efficiently. We drive performance, we assist, we help stakeholders and organizations. And we are also performance-driven for ourselves. We are very strict on the budget use. The European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation. You could tell me, Jean-Marc, yes, there is something wrong there because from what you have explained, I've been able to identify, to understand that we do not work only, you do not work only for things which are airborne, for the air segment of air transport. You would be right to say so, to think this. It's because we are involved in all aspects of the flight. We are involved in all the segments, starting from the departure gate. Remember, gate to gate concept. Gate to gate, departure to destination. Through the various flight phases, all these phases are called segments. The taxiing phase. Taxiing means really the movement of airplanes on the ground, leaving the departure gate and getting to the runway threshold before takeoff. Takeoff, another segment of the flight. Climb, the climb phase, the cruise phase, the descent, the approach to the destination airport, the landing, and getting to the destination gate. These phases constitute what we call a flight profile. So the European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation is a bit misleading. We work also on the ground segment to improve the sequencing and the circulation of airplanes on the ground, on the taxiways, on the runways, etc. We are not an air traffic service provider. We do not provide air traffic control except at Maastricht on behalf of 4 of our member states. But we are not controlling traffic on the pan-European basis. However, our role is to find pan-European solutions to improve the fluidity of traffic, to improve safety, capacity, cost efficiency, and environmental protection. To do this, we have colleagues involved, experts in each individual segment. We have people here, genuine experts involved in the taxiing phase of the flight, involved in the takeoff part of the flight. Their job is to think and provide solutions to improve each phase of the flight. Do not misinterpret my words. We are not providing taxiing service on the ground. We do not control traffic on the ground. We provide the processes, the tools to optimize the taxiing of airplanes on the ground. The same for instance, the descent, the approach. To take the example of descent, we have devised and made agreed the concept of continuous descent approach, by which the pilot who is in cruise is given the top to descent up to destination. And this is computed. It is optimized by the ground system, and the top of descent is given to the pilot, which was not the case before. This is what we call the continuous descent approach. It's a concept by which there is less fuel consumed. The airplane is kept at its cruise level for a longer time and only starts its descent at the right moment, optimal descent. Not a descent in steps, but a ballistic descent. We provide tools, processes for air traffic controllers for their optimization of the approach phase of traffic. We address, we optimize, we work on all flight phases in a generic manner. The solutions that we find for instance, the climb phase of the flight are proposed, the new procedures, etc. They are proposed, discussed, improved, validated, adopted, and implemented on large airfields first, large airports, and then progressively to all the airports in Europe. Continuous descent approach is a concept that has been applied progressively, starting with the large airports with a lot of traffic, of course. Improvement of all flight phases. That's what we do. Improvement to achieve better performance, increased performance to be able to accommodate the traffic demands, the traffic growth. We are exposed, we are faced with a significant traffic demand, traffic increase, between 4 and 5% per year. It is exceptionally high. And that shows that we have to be extremely efficient in the solution finding. And we do that through research and development programs which are conducted together with the European Union and industry. We have set up a partnership, an agreement with EU and industry by which together we pool our resources, expertise and also budget to find solutions. We call it the CESAR, Single European Sky ATM Research. It's a joint undertaking. CESAR joint undertaking between EuroCONTROL, between EU and industry. This is a powerful, very powerful tool to research and develop new solutions, which are coordinated by the EuroCONTROL agency, which is seen, which is an expert body. If it is not clearly understood, the name, this European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation, could be misleading. Take the example of the word navigation. Are we all navigation experts here in this room? Probably not. I do not consider myself as a navigation expert, not at all, because I'm not an expert in satellite navigation. Although, so we are the European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation, we have in this agency a large variety of staff background. This picture shows the various professions that exist in the agency. There are safety risks everywhere in very many areas. Safety risks, that means that we have to have expertise in these very many areas. And this is the expertise, ATM-related expertise. We have several hundreds of air traffic controllers, not only, as you could guess, at Maastricht in the Netherlands to operate the system, but here at Brussels, we have former air traffic controllers working on research and development, validating the solutions found in common. They provide their past experience to do their current job. These air traffic controllers provide the background, they have the expertise of air traffic control. When it comes to improve procedures, to specify new equipment, they are there to provide their operational expertise, civil and military. Flow controllers. The flow controllers are colleagues, usually coming from airlines. They know pretty well how the operation centers of airline operate. We have recruited them to optimize the slot allocation, the departure slot, and to optimize the management of air traffic over the network, to propose solutions in case of traffic congestion. They are the flow controllers. They manage the flows of traffic. They organize, they redistribute the traffic on the horizontal plane or in the vertical plane, depending on the airspace organization, the traffic density, etc. Or they implement delays. That explains the delays. When your flight is delayed, it is to protect air traffic control from overload. Overload means risk, safety risk. Fluidity of traffic is paramount in the sense that it contributes to safety. An air traffic controller working at his or her control position, feeling overloaded, would feel quite rapidly unsafe. And the feeling of being unsafe leads to an unsafe situation. So flow controllers contribute to ensuring fluidity and therefore safety. Airline operations specialists, they are working at the Network Management Directorate. They interface with the airspace users, with the airlines, with the airline operation centers. Liaison officers with states. This agency works on a day-to-day basis with the national administrations, transports, defense, and we need to ensure a fluid transit of information, the fluid transit of knowledge between this agency and these states. And to ensure fluidity, transparency, easy access to information, easy access to the right people, efficient transmission of strategic messages, easy dissemination of reference material, documents, etc., proper identification of the right resources, the right people with the right skills. We have implemented what we call State Liaison Officers. And Levan here is a State Liaison Officer from Georgia. So his role is to ensure the fluidity between the agency and his country on the civil, Georgia, the civil and military. Levan will work in particular with the military experts to ensure the fluidity of information, to ease coordination, to make people in national administrations better understand quickly what we need to achieve. And what we need to achieve is coming from the EU. Military experts, for an obvious reason, one airspace, two types of users, the military need to be represented. And the military have really the same voice as the civil. That's important to realize. Air traffic management experts, of course. These people, air traffic management experts, are coming from industry or from the operational side. They are former air traffic controllers. They come also from the avionics environment or from airlines. They come quite often from air traffic service providers. They are sent to us on a detachment basis or second-band basis from air traffic service providers. I am an air traffic management expert. I have been like this. I'm a former air traffic controller. I'm a former pilot and a former candidate astronaut. I have, just like almost all my colleagues, a professional background in the business of air traffic management. We have not only navigation, of course, but we have communications and surveillance experts. Ground-ground communications, air-ground communications, air-air communications, and surveillance of the airspace. Radar experts, for instance. For those of you who are quite familiar with the CNS acronym, that is all about. CNS, communications, navigation, and surveillance. These are the foundations of air traffic management. The infrastructure, communication infrastructure, navigation infrastructure, surveillance infrastructure. Aeronautical information specialist. Nothing can be left to improvisation, which means that things need to be documented. Information needs to be available, permanently, updated, consistent, checked. We have to have specialists in aeronautical information who ensure the capture of information and quality control, dissemination of quality control information through aeronautical information services. So we have top experts in this area. Meteorology. Meteo plays a role in aviation for obvious reasons, so we have a couple of meteo specialists as well. Instructors and training experts. Air traffic management is a science. It's a very specific area. And there are not very many colleges, institutions, schools teaching air traffic management. And there are even fewer institutions, establishments, providing presentations like this, the philosophy of what we do in Europe, explaining the concepts, explaining the strategies. So we operate a training establishment in Luxembourg, and this is a conference center where we deliver courses on a pan-European level, but predominantly we share our experience, we share expertise, we share experience. To assist all these experts in their own field, to support the business, we need really a number of other backgrounds, professions, jobs. Experts in statistics and forecast. Just like the role that we have to play in crisis situations, we play a role in statistics and forecast. The European Union has entrusted us with the responsibility for providing Europe with information, detailed statistics, and detailed forecast on air transport. Not only air traffic, but air transport at large. The economy of air transport. We are the European focal point for statistics and forecast in air transport. When it comes to be cost efficient, we need to base cost efficiency on a sound knowledge of the reality, and the reality through statistics and the future reality through the forecast. We have a team of specialists in statistics and forecast. They have a mathematics background and they are scientists. We need to be supported by specialists in system architecture, design and operations. Within the CESAR joint undertaking, we have colleagues developing, specifying, developing the future systems, developing them together with industry. Buying a new air traffic management system is something that you cannot find from the shelf. It needs to be designed by professionals. It needs to be validated, developed and validated by professionals. And the validation phase of any new system, in particular air traffic management, where safety is paramount, is a special job. The validation is a complex job. Validating new processes, validating new equipment, validating new tools is a science, the science of validation. The higher the complexity, the more difficult the validation is. And this is something that we do in particular in France at our Research and Development Center in France. Project managers, through his life, EuroCONTROL has been managing thousands of different projects, small or big projects, each one led by a project leader. So it's a profession. Being a project leader is a profession. So we have project managers coming from industry. ICT experts, information and communication technology experts, it's trivial. We operate a large number of systems, subsystems, element of the networks. ICT is important. We have our own information and communication technology system here. We need to have experts in this. Psychomedical specialists, air traffic controllers, have a key responsibility in safety. That's their prime job, to avoid congestion over route points, to avoid, of course, collisions in the air, but also on the ground, collisions between two airplanes. That would be a catastrophic situation. These controllers need to be not only well-trained, but they need to go through very strict medical requirements. Just like pilots, we need to have people fit for the job, permanently fit for the job, round the clock. We have a doctor here. He is in a senior position on a worldwide basis as well. He's involved in the analysis of medical requirements, the profession, the evolution of the profession of air traffic controller, and the impact on the medical requirements. We have legal experts, economists, remember, cost-benefit analysis, interpreters and translators. Two working languages, English and French. Otherwise, for high-level meetings, there is a translation in the various languages of this organization. Professionals in communications and public relations. Communication in those days is paramount. We have to be able to present what we have to do in a clear manner. This is a job in itself. Being good communicator is a job. So we do that. We have experts in communication. We are doing a sort of communication exercise this morning together. I'm trying to share with you a certain view of what EuroCONTROL is. I'm trying to convince you that there is really a good rationale for EuroCONTROL, so that you feel more than welcome. You are happy to work within this organization. You have found an interest. That's the role of communications. Developing an interest in the audience. Developing an appeal for something new, something challenging. That's what I'm doing. In those days, we have to be convincing. And to convince stakeholders, to convince decision makers to approve our budget, for instance, to approve our recruitment plan, we need to be convincing. And the best way to be convincing is to be an expert in communication. Experts in public relations, interfacing with the media, with the journalists, the professional press, the professional media is important. We have to be visible, transparent, and this requires skills, and we pretend to have the skills through a communication unit. And we have, of course, administrators involved in the various projects, providing administrative support, administration of projects, and also administration, general administration, administration of staff, ensuring your well-being. So a constellation, very comprehensive of ATM expertise, the business, but the business needs support, and a comprehensive support ranging from pure administration to even the medical expertise. So you will be meeting people in the corridors, in the meeting rooms, at the canteen, at the cafeteria, who have a different expertise from yours. Very different, but take it as an opportunity to dialogue, to exchange, to communicate, develop your own base of knowledge, your base of understanding. And what I've developed today is an appeal for this. That's my job, to really motivate you. After 37 years at EuroCONTROL and a number of years before in the French administration, I can say that I'm still enthusiastic, still motivated by the job, still motivated by aviation, aviation at large, not only air navigation, not only safety of air navigation, not only European. All these experts having different backgrounds, experience, have been grouped into various departments, which I've already mentioned to you. We are based in Brussels, France, Bretigny-sur-Orge, south of Paris, Luxembourg and Maastricht. But we also sent people to ICAO, Montreal, and to the EU, to the various EU departments involved in aviation. We have colleagues working at EU premises. And we work together in these various directorates with a little label here, multi-site. That means that the directorate has staff in different areas in the agency. For instance, the European Civil Military Aviation, multi-site. We have people here, Brussels. We have people in France, working in the Research and Development Center. Here, the network manager, multi-site. We have people working here, the building next door, which is the ops room, the ops part, but they provide training and conferencing in our training institute, conference center. And the network manager has correspondents in every state. We call it the flow management position function. Correspondent, those people inform the network manager of the situation, the local situation, so that the network manager gets on a day-to-day basis, in real time, in fact, an exact picture of the reality, the operational situation, to minimize the impact of any negative situation on the traffic, to take mitigation actions at the European level. Air Traffic Control Center at Maastricht, the cost recovery here, and the agency resources, multi-site, management of people, and we have sub-departments in France, in Maastricht, in Luxembourg. The European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation. This little word, the. This could give you the impression that we are the only one organization involved in aviation, involved in the single European sky, involved in air traffic management. The European organization. Not at all. We are an organization. On this picture, we have put together a quite substantial number of other organizations, bodies, institutions, associations, which are also involved in aviation, involved in air traffic management, on the civil side and also on the military side. It is a picture that is not really organized, but it is because we have to manage complexity. And this shows the institutional complexity. Air navigation service providers, those services that are provided at the national level, air traffic control service, ministries of transport, ministries of defense, NATO, I've just mentioned NATO, crisis cell, civil military airspace users, EuroCONTROL organization, CESAR joint undertaking, it's there. All sorts of bodies organizations, institutions, agencies, group of stakeholders, industry, a group of stakeholders, having their own say in the future of air navigation. By future, we mean performance, safety, affordability, cost efficiency, etc., etc. So we are not the only one. But our role is to coordinate the efforts, to ensure transparency, to ensure the exchange of knowledge. We are a knowledge-based organization, but we do not wish to keep our own knowledge for ourselves. We share it, we make it public, so that all these bodies and institutions can also provide their own added value to the pan-European single sky. That's the idea. There is something which is intentionally wrong on this picture. It has to do with the location of EuroCONTROL. On this slide, as you can see, EuroCONTROL as an organization and as an agency is located in the middle of this constellation of bubbles. And this wrongly suggests that we are at the center of everything. In fact, we are a coordinating agency. It is in that sense that we are at the center of aviation in Europe. We are at the center of aviation in Europe, and I am paraphrasing our DG there. We want to be seen at the center of aviation in Europe through our, 1, expertise, 2, experience, and our coordination role. We are a coordinating body. We ensure that there is fluidity of information. We ensure that all these bodies involved work together, talk to each other. That's our job. We are a coordinating agency in addition to our expertise. But it is because we have expertise and experience in so many facets of aviation, of air traffic management, that we can really support coordination. We are credible in the middle of coordination because we have expertise in very many areas. For this 1 hour, I hope that the hidden part of the iceberg, the EuroCONTROL iceberg, has become more visible, just like here now. I hope it has. And looking at your faces, the body language says a lot. I have the feeling that it has made a little bit more sense. The European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation is true. Well, it could be misleading because behind each word there is much more than the meaning of the word itself. Try to remember this. Each word has a meaning, but it says more, in fact. There is more behind. Okay? I thank you very much for your attention, for your patience as well. 1 hour is admittedly a bit long, and I wish you success in your job, be it for a short period of time or a long period of time. I wish you really a success. We have this is something which I created years ago, an info center. Whenever you need a piece of information, whenever you need to identify a contact person, simply ask the EuroCONTROL info center. Send them a quick mail asking for support, and they will respond within a short delay. You will receive an educated answer by the best expert in the field. The website as well is a gold mine. It's a gold mine for information. I would like to thank Fiona for inviting me to share this with you. It is always a pleasure. Thank you, Jean-Luc, for recording this session, which will be available on My Orbit, which is our intranet, very soon. And enjoy the day. Second thing which I've realized after so many very different presentations to very many different audiences, we have a name which is difficult to use. The European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation. this is not exactly, it does not show, it does not say clearly in an unambiguous manner who we are and what we do. I think we should be called, but this will be your task, your challenge, not mine anymore. We should be called something like the Intergovernmental Organization, no real change there, for the pan-European, better than European sky, for the pan-European development of civil and military aviation. And I think that this expression is closer to who we are and what we do in fact. But this is for your future, not for me.